Hello everyone, welcome to today's video. Today I'm going to analyze a super lucky game that I was supposed to lose, but I actually won on time. So make sure to watch the whole video to see how I won and what mistakes I made and how I can improve from those mistakes. So let's get right into it. E4, C6, D4, D5. This is the Caro-Kann defense. And he plays advanced Caro-Kann. And I play the C5 as the main line, because that's more simple. And he played bishop b5 check. And now I played knight c6, developing my knight. And he played bishop takes knight, pawn takes knight, and giving me a backwards pawn. And this pawn is easily attackable. And he played c3, defending his pawn, making a pawn chain. And I played bishop f5, just developing my bishop. And the better move for me was to take this pawn, because after he takes back, this pawn is easy to attack. And I can attack it with e6, knight e7, and knight f5, and queen b6. And instead I went bishop f5. Why does this always happen? So in this position, he played h3, preventing anything from going to g4. But that slows down his development, so that's why it's not a good move. I played e6, just opening up my bishop and defending this pawn. He played a3, preventing anything from coming from b4. But this also slows his development. And I traded, and I won 97, trying to attack his d4 pawn by going bishop g6 and knight f5. Yeah, and I went knight f5. He played rook e1, bringing out the rook. I went bishop e7, and he went knight c3, and I castled. And he went knight a2. And this move confused me a lot. And I knew it was a bad move, so I just continued with my development by going a5, and I took some space on the queen side, restricting his knight even more so it can't come to b4. And he went g4, attacking my knight, but you might think that my knight has to go here, and he can just take my knight and open up my king, but g4 will also opens up his king, and I can go knight h4 trying to trade knights. That's why it's a great move. And he traded knights with me and went king g2. And now at f3, trying to do a pawn break and open up my rook. And he went f4, defending the pawns. And I traded. And I went bishop e4 check, taking this outpost. Queen d7. Knight c6 attacks my bishop. And my bishop has to move, otherwise it's going to get captured. So that's why it's a great move. But instead I attacked his rook. And then he took my bishop. And I traded a bishop and a knight for a rook. But now I can't take this knight because then he can take my queen. So it's just a loss of material for me. And I went queen d7, trying to take this knight or bring my queen to the king side. And he went knight d6, taking the outpost. And I don't see why this is not a good move, because to me this move is super annoying. I went queen h5, trying to check him and somehow make a draw, because I'm already losing. He went queen f3, defending the check. I went c5, trying to promote one of these pawns to a queen. And he went bishop e3, and I went d5. And I was thinking about going rook b8, but I wanted to win a tempo on this bishop and push this pawn. That's why I went d5. He went bishop f2, attacking my queen, and I went queen e7. He went rook c1, attacking this pawn. And now my only move to defend it is to go queen a7. And he went knight e4, attacking it even more and putting pressure on it. And now I had to go rook c8, doing some passive defense. His rook is not doing anything because it's blocked by this pawn. Now he went queen e4, threatening this pawn. And the only move I had was g6, defending the pawn by my queen and blocking his queen. And he went f4. And I don't know why, but I traded. And I went rook f8. And my king is my king is open, so he can easily attack it by bringing his rook here. But the only thing I can do is attack his queen, so he has to go back. But instead he went forward, and he went bishop g3, bringing his bishop into the game. And I went queen g7, trying to attack his knight and make him retreat it. But instead he just pushed his pawn because he wanted to keep his knight there and attack me. And I went h6, forcing him to retreat his knight, and he brought it to the center. And now I won the temple on his queen, and I traded queens unfortunately. And I went rook e6. He went b3, and I immediately thought b3. Oh, I should attack that pawn. And he went bishop f7, and I took the pawn. And then he took my d4 pawn, and I can't take back because then he can take my rook. And so I just pushed it, trying to find a way to promote this pawn miserably. And he went a4. And instead of going a4, if he pushed this pawn, then he would easily win because I'd have to sacrifice my rook for this pawn, and then he'd win my rook and then win the game. But a4 happened, and I went c3, and he can just push his pawn still. Yeah, and he went e6, and I went c2, trying to push my pawn also. He went e7, I went rook b1, hoping to win this pawn, but he can easily just go e8 queen check, and then after I take, he can take my rook with check because of the bishop, and I can move my king, then he can take my pawn, and he's clearly winning, so yeah, but instead I went rook c2. Instead he took this pawn, which is a blunder, because then I can take it with check, and check him again, and go back. It's still equal because he can still push this pawn and try to make it a queen, and if he makes it a queen, then I'd have to sack my rook for it, and then it would be a rook versus bishop and knight. And he'd have a small advantage because the bishop and knight are better than the rook. And he went knight d7 attacking my rook. I mean, knight d7 and check and attacking my rook. And I obviously had to move my king, and he took my rook. Now I went rook c8, which is a blunder. And I don't understand why it's a blunder because it also lets him go. It also prevents him from queening and attacking his knight. But the better move was king f7, clear, defending the pawn more easier, defending the pawn and attacking the pawn. And he went bishop b5, and now I went king f7, trying to take this pawn. And he went bishop d6, and I just tried to check him and take this pawn and this pawn. And over here, he lost on time, and I got super lucky. Now, I'm gonna tell you my accuracy and my rating for this game. It's super embarrassing. So I'm gonna tell you in 3, 2, 1. So my accuracy was 72.2. And my rating for the game was only 1600, which is super bad because I'm 1871 at the moment. So if you enjoyed this video, please make sure to like and subscribe, and because it helps me a lot. and it also encourages me to make more educational videos like this. So thanks for watching.